Feminine, you can feel it, can't you? The shift is happening. The balance is changing, and he knows it. When the masculine senses your power rising, his soul is drawn closer. But his ego panics. It fights back, it lashes out, and sometimes it seeks revenge. Not because he hates you, not because the bond is broken, but because the old version of him feels like it's dying. And dying egos rarely go quietly. So you need to be prepared, to stand rooted, to recognize the difference between his shadow and his soul. Because his revenge cannot touch you unless you feed it. This is the moment the universe asks you, will you shrink back into fear, or will you rise higher, stronger, unshakable in your truth? Why the masculine reacts with revenge when he loses control. Feminine, let's be honest about something most people won't say out loud. Not every part of the divine masculine surrenders easily. His soul recognizes you, yes. His higher self knows the bond is sacred, yes. But his ego, the part of him built on pride, control, and illusion, does not go down without a fight. And when he feels that fight slipping from his hands, one of the first reactions can be revenge. Why? Because revenge is the ego's way of regaining power. For lifetimes, the masculine has been taught that strength equals control, that love is possession, that vulnerability is weakness. So when he feels the feminine rise in sovereignty, when she stops waiting, when she no longer feeds his silence, when she finally remembers her worth, the ego interprets it as loss. And loss, to the unhealed masculine, feels like betrayal. Instead of admitting pain, he disguises it. He covers longing with pride, desire with distance, and fear with anger. He convinces himself that hurting you back, pulling away harder, or withholding his presence will restore balance. But deep down, it doesn't heal him. It only delays the awakening he is meant to face. This reaction isn't always loud. Sometimes, revenge shows up as silence, sharpened into a weapon. He withholds affection, ignores messages, or withdraws completely, not because he doesn't care, but because he wants you to feel the absence he cannot process in himself. Other times, it surfaces as subtle manipulation, saying words to trigger your insecurity, testing your patience, or trying to make you chase him again. And in its strongest form, it can even manifest as anger or projection, blaming you for the very wounds he is avoiding in himself. But here's the truth. His revenge is not really about you, it's about him. It's about the collapse of the illusion he built around himself. It's about the terror of realizing that no distraction, no karmic bond, no silence can erase the truth of the tether. You are the mirror, and the mirror shows him where he is still unhealed. That confrontation is unbearable to the ego, so it lashes out. And yet, Spirit allows this stage. Why? Because even revenge becomes a teacher. The masculine's attempts to punish you for your sovereignty only end up proving your strength. His silence forces you deeper into your own voice. His manipulation teaches you the value of your boundaries. His projection reminds you to separate his shadow from his soul. Every move of his ego becomes another opportunity for you to embody your truth. For him, this stage is unavoidable. The more he resists, the harsher the lessons become. The more he seeks revenge, the more empty he feels afterward. Until one day, he realizes revenge cannot fill the void, and control cannot kill the bond. The only option left is surrender. For you, feminine, The key is understanding without absorbing. Do not take his actions as proof of his heart. His soul is not against you. His higher self does not seek to harm you. It is only his wounded ego fighting for survival. And like all illusions, it cannot last. This is why preparation is everything. When you know why he reacts with revenge, you stop taking it personally. You stop shrinking when he tries to intimidate you with silence. You stop doubting yourself when he projects fear onto you. You remember, this is not your battle to fight. His ego is his to dismantle. Your role is to stay rooted in truth. So the next time you feel the sting of his withdrawal or the sharpness of his words, pause, breathe. Remind yourself, this is not about me. This is about the death of his illusion. His revenge is not a sign of the bond breaking. It is a sign of the ego cracking. And every crack is another step closer to union. Feminine, one of the most important parts of being prepared is learning to recognize the masculine's shadow when it rises. Because when his ego feels threatened, it doesn't usually appear as honesty or vulnerability. It hides behind masks. It dresses itself up as control, silence, or indifference. And if you can't see through those masks, you risk falling back into cycles you've already broken. The first shadow pattern is silence as punishment. This isn't the silence of someone who needs space to process. This is silence sharpened like a weapon. He withholds communication, ignores messages, or disappears without explanation, not because he has nothing to say, but because he wants you to feel abandoned. His ego believes that if you panic, if you chase, if you question yourself, he regains control. But your soul must recognize the difference. His silence is not rejection. It's resistance. The second shadow pattern is projection of blame. When the masculine cannot handle the weight of his own wounds, he may turn them against you. Suddenly, you are accused of being too much, not enough, the reason for his pain. These words can cut deeply, especially when they touch insecurities you have carried for lifetimes. But remember, projection is not truth. His accusations are reflections of his own battle, not revelations about your worth. The third shadow pattern is manipulation through inconsistency. One day, he shows affection. The next, he withdraws completely. He drops breadcrumbs of attention just enough to keep you tied to the cycle. This pattern is designed to confuse you, to make you doubt your intuition, to keep you chasing clarity from someone unwilling to give it. But your body knows better. Your soul knows better. Pay attention to the unease that rises when his words and actions don't match. That is spirit showing you the shadow. The fourth shadow pattern is anger disguised as strength. He may raise his voice, use sharp words, or carry a coldness that feels unbearable. This is not his divine power speaking. This is fear masquerading as control. His ego believes that if he intimidates you, you will retreat into submission. But the feminine does not retreat. She witnesses the shadow, names it for what it is, and refuses to let it dictate her alignment. The fifth shadow pattern is the karmic mirror. Sometimes, when the masculine resists the bond, he throws himself into karmic situations, other relationships, shallow distractions, surface-level escapes. He may even flaunt them, hoping to trigger jealousy. But this too is illusion. Karmics are not replacements. They are mirrors of his resistance. And if you take them as proof of your unworthiness, you miss the deeper truth. His karmics are teachers, not threats. Recognizing these patterns does not mean tolerating them. It means you stop confusing them with love. Because love is not silence that wounds, blame that shames, inconsistency that manipulates, anger that breaks, or karmics that distract. Love is alignment, sovereignty, and truth. And every time his shadow shows itself, you are given the opportunity to step back into your power. The reason Spirit wants you to recognize these patterns quickly is because they are temporary. They are the last defenses of an ego that knows its time is ending. When you stop feeding them, when you refuse to chase, when you hold your boundaries, when you stand firm in your sovereignty, the patterns lose power. His shadow begins to crumble, and what remains is his soul. Feminine, this is how you prepare. Not by fearing his revenge, but by seeing it clearly for what it is. It is the tantrum of an ego facing death. It is not stronger than you. It is not stronger than the bond. It cannot undo what Spirit has already written. So hold steady. When the shadows rise, recognize them, name them, and then release them back to him. Because his patterns are not your prison. They are his doorway to awakening. How his silence and manipulation test the feminine's strength. Feminine, let's be honest, silence can hurt more than words. And when the divine masculine feels cornered by his own awakening, silence becomes one of his favorite weapons. Not because he doesn't feel the bond, but because he feels it too much. The intensity scares him. So instead of facing it, he withdraws. And sometimes he sharpens that withdrawal into manipulation, hoping to keep control. This is one of the hardest tests for you, because silence doesn't just echo in your ears, it echoes in your chest. It awakens every old wound of abandonment, every lifetime where you were left unseen, every fear of being too much or not enough. The masculine's ego counts on that. It counts on your reaction. It hopes that if he disappears, you will chase. If he withholds, you will beg. If he ignores, you will doubt yourself. That is how manipulation tries to pull you back into old cycles. But here's the truth. Silence is not power. Silence is fear, disguised as strength. When he withholds his presence, it does not mean the bond is gone. It means the bond is shaking him so deeply, he doesn't know how to respond. His silence is not rejection of you, it is avoidance of himself. The manipulation often comes in subtle forms. He may give you glimpses of affection, then vanish again. He may say words that stir your hope, only to pull back the next day. He may use attention as a reward and distance as a punishment. This push and pull is designed to test whether you will still pour energy into him no matter how inconsistent he becomes. But feminine, this is where your strength is forged. Your task is not to fight his silence. Your task is to rise above it. Every time you choose not to chase, every time you refuse to beg for scraps of his attention, every time you hold your boundaries instead of collapsing into fear, you take back power. You remind both yourself and the tether that your worth does not depend on his validation. The more you stand in that strength, the weaker his manipulation becomes. Because his silence only has power when it makes you small. When you stop shrinking, his silence turns into a mirror he cannot escape. Suddenly, the distance doesn't punish you. It punishes him. He begins to feel the emptiness of his own choices. He realizes the feminine is not waiting at the door anymore, and that realization terrifies his ego. This stage is painful, yes, but it is also sacred. It is the universe testing whether you have truly stepped into sovereignty. Will you fall back into chasing illusions, or will you stand in your truth? Will you shrink when he withdraws, or will you expand anyway? These moments are not about proving yourself to him. They are about proving yourself to you. And for him, this silence is not the end of the story. It is the breaking point, because the longer he withdraws, the louder the tether becomes. The more he manipulates, the clearer the contrast grows between his ego and his soul. At some point, the silence collapses in on itself, and he is forced to confront the truth he was avoiding all along. He cannot escape this bond, and his games only delay the inevitable. Feminine, see this stage for what it is, a test, not a sentence. His silence is not the final word. His manipulation is not stronger than your light. These are the last defenses of an ego losing control. And the more you rise in your strength, the sooner those defenses fall. So the next time his silence cuts deep, place a hand on your heart and remind yourself, this is not about me. This is about his fear. My worth is not in question. My strength is already proven. Because the truth is, your strength does not just carry you through this test, it shakes the very foundation of his resistance. Feminine, one of the greatest lies you've been told is that love means never setting limits, that to be devoted, you must accept everything. The silence, the manipulation, the inconsistency, the chaos. But the truth is this: boundaries are not walls that block love. They are gates that protect it. Without boundaries, the feminine bleeds energy. With boundaries, she embodies power. When the divine masculine lashes out, withdraws, or seeks revenge, it is not an invitation for you to shrink. It is an invitation for you to rise into clarity. Your boundaries are not punishment. They are protection. Protection for your energy, for your body, for your mission. And more than that, they are a mirror that forces him to see what his ego has tried to ignore. The first form of boundary is energetic. This is when you decide, I will not carry what is not mine. When his silence tries to provoke you, you don't absorb it as proof of rejection. When his projection blames you, you don't take it as truth. You let the energy stop where it belongs, with him. This boundary is invisible but powerful. It's the moment you stop being a container for his shadows and return them to their source. The second form of boundary is emotional. This is when you no longer allow yourself to be dragged into cycles of begging, chasing, or proving. You know your worth. You know your role. You know your heart's truth. And from that knowing, you choose not to entertain manipulation. You step out of the dance of ego, even if he continues spinning in circles. You stay rooted while he spins himself into exhaustion. The third form of boundary is physical. This is where you take tangible action to protect your space. Maybe it means stepping back from communication for a season. Maybe it means refusing to meet him halfway when he refuses to meet you in truth. Maybe it means focusing on your body, your work, your healing, instead of pouring energy into him. These physical choices are not abandonment. They are alignment. They say, I honor this bond, but I will not betray myself for it. And here's the mystery. When you hold these boundaries, you are not pushing him away. You are pulling him closer to his own awakening. Because boundaries strip away the comfort of his illusions. They remove the false oxygen he was breathing from your energy. They force him to face himself without your constant support. At first, it may feel like rejection to him, but eventually he realizes it is love. The kind of love that refuses to enable his ego any longer. For the feminine, boundaries are also healing. They remind you that your value is not dependent on how much pain you can tolerate. They remind you that love is not measured by how much you endure, but by how much you align. Boundaries free you from cycles of depletion and return you to cycles of creation. They keep your channel clear for spirit, your energy rooted in sovereignty, your heart open to truth. And here's what happens when you stand firm. The masculine's revenge loses power. His silence becomes meaningless. His manipulation falls flat. His projection bounces back at him because you are no longer feeding it. You are no longer validating his ego's games. You are standing in truth, and truth does not bend. This is why boundaries are not just defense, they are offense. They shift the entire energy of the bond. They declare to the universe, I am ready for union, but I will not sacrifice my truth for it. And the universe responds. Doors open, energy clears, the tether strengthens, not through codependency, but through alignment. So feminine, stop fearing boundaries, stop mistaking them for rejection. Stop believing they will push him away. They are the very thing that calls him forward. They are your shield, your sword, your altar of power. And in the moments when his ego rises in revenge, they are your greatest protection. Because love without boundaries is not love. It is surrender to illusion. But love with boundaries, that is sacred, that is divine, that is unstoppable. Feminine, conflict is not the end of the twin flame journey. It is part of the purification. Every trigger, every silence, every flare of anger is not random. It is a fire burning away illusion. And though the flames may feel unbearable at times, what emerges after is always clearer, cleaner, truer. The divine masculine's revenge, his ego's resistance, his silence, his attempts to manipulate, all of it becomes a mirror. And mirrors, no matter how uncomfortable, always serve one purpose: to show what is hidden. In this case, conflict reveals where love has been tangled with fear, where truth has been wrapped in illusion, where desire has been disguised as control. Without that revelation, union cannot be pure. This is why spirit allows confrontation. If every stage was soft and peaceful, the shadows would never surface. And if shadows never surfaced, you would still be chained to cycles of pain disguised as love. Conflict exposes what must die so that real love can live. For the masculine, conflict is unavoidable. The more he resists awakening, the more pressure builds inside him. His ego lashes out not because it is strong, but because it is crumbling. Revenge, anger, blame, these are signs of collapse. His old self is being burned to ash. And though his soul welcomes it, his ego fights to survive. The conflict you experience is the sound of that collapse. For you, feminine, the conflict is a forge. It tests the metal of your spirit. When he withholds, do you chase? When he projects, do you absorb? When he tries to control, do you collapse? Or do you expand? Every moment of friction is a chance to prove to yourself that you are no longer the woman who settles for less than truth. You are no longer the one who accepts illusion in place of love. You are rising, and conflict is the fire that makes your rise undeniable. This stage also purifies the tether itself. The push and pull, the silence and explosion, the pain and longing, they all stretch the cord until only truth remains. The games cannot survive forever. At some point, the noise burns away, and both counterparts are left staring at what cannot be denied. The bond itself, pure, unbreakable beyond ego. Conflict also serves another purpose. It clears karmic residue. Many of the battles you face with your masculine are not just about this lifetime. They are echoes of wounds carried across incarnations, betrayals unresolved, vows unbroken, illusions replayed. The fire of conflict surfaces those echoes so they can finally be released. When you recognize this, you stop seeing every fight as failure. You see it as clearing. You see it as karmic release, disguised as tension. But here is the key. Purification only works if you refuse to get stuck in the fire. If you let his ego drag you into endless cycles of revenge, you stay in smoke. But if you hold steady, if you breathe through the heat, if you remember that the fire is temporary, you emerge lighter, stronger, ready for what's next. Spirit never wastes conflict. Every silence becomes a lesson in sovereignty. Every argument becomes a chance to practice compassion without losing power. Every trigger becomes an invitation to heal wounds that words alone could never touch. This is how the bond is purified. Not in avoidance of conflict, but through it. So the next time the masculine lashes out, the next time his silence cuts, the next time you feel the fire rise between you, remember, this is not the end. This is purification. This is spirit preparing the bond for truth. Do not fear the flames. Walk through them. Because on the other side of fire is gold. On the other side of illusion is union. Conflict is not here to destroy you. It is here to reveal you. It is here to burn away what was never love so that what is love can finally breathe. Feminine, if you take nothing else from this message, take this. His revenge cannot destroy you. His silence cannot erase you. His manipulation cannot bend what is eternal. The bond is stronger than his ego, and your light is stronger than his shadow. Yes, the masculine may lash out, he may withdraw, he may try to wound you with words, distance, or distraction. But these are not signs of his power, they are signs of his weakness. They are the tremors of an ego collapsing under the weight of truth. His revenge is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of his surrender. Your role is not to fight him nor to fix him. Your role is to stand rooted in your sovereignty, rooted in your boundaries, rooted in your knowing that the tether cannot be broken. Because when you are rooted, nothing he throws at you can shake you. His silence becomes background noise. His projection bounces off your shield of clarity. His anger dissolves in the presence of your calm. Spirit has been preparing you for this. Every wound you've healed, every cycle you've broken, every shadow you've faced, it has all been training for this moment. You are not fragile, you are not weak, you are not here to collapse under the weight of his ego. You are here to rise, to embody the divine feminine fully, to hold steady while the storm passes, and it will pass, because storms don't last. Ego games don't last. Revenge doesn't last, but truth does. And truth always wins. For the masculine, his revenge is his last stand. It is his ego's desperate attempt to hold on to control. But it cannot last, because the tether won't allow it. The more he fights, the the more he realizes the futility of resistance. The more he lashes out, the more he feels the emptiness of his own actions. And eventually, the only path left is surrender. Not to you, but to himself, to his own soul, to the love he has been avoiding. For you, feminine, the preparation is simple but profound. Stay rooted. Stay clear. Stay aligned. Do not be baited into fear. Do not collapse into doubt. Do not mistake his ego for his essence. See through the mask, and you will know the truth. His soul has never been against you. His higher self has never sought to harm you. Only his fear lashes out, and fear cannot outlive love. So let this be your anchor. You are unbreakable. You are unshakable. You are already whole. His revenge is a shadow passing over the surface, but your light is eternal beneath it. Do not forget who you are when his shadow rises. Do not forget the mission when the noise grows loud. Do not forget that this story ends in truth, not illusion. Stand rooted, feminine. Breathe. Place your hand on your heart and remember, I am safe. I am sovereign. I am loved. Because no matter what his ego tries, the bond is unbreakable. And your light, your boundaries, your truth, they are more powerful than any attempt at revenge. This is not the moment you fall. This is the moment you prove to yourself that you were never meant to.